The organist slips on a note, just one, splitting the air like a warning. Nora Vale hears it. She hears everything. 300 guests shifting in their pews, a bird tapping somewhere behind stained glass, her own pulse hammering under a veil that suddenly feels like a net. Father Donnelly asks if Adrian Cole will take this woman. Adrian's hand is slick inside hers. He stares past Nora, past the altar flowers, to the doors as if salvation is on the other side. His voice catches. He swallows. I can't. He doesn't stumble. He runs. Shoes cracking against stone, jacket flapping, doors bursting open, sunlight swallowing him whole. A gasp becomes a flood. Pews scrape. Someone sobs. Nora's mother, maybe. The bouquet slips from Nora's hands and lands on the marble with a dull thud. She doesn't chase him. She wouldn't know where to begin. Then the ground trembles. At first, Nora thinks it's her knees. It isn't. The windows shiver in their lead frames. A low growl rolls up the hill and turns into a tidal roar. Engines. Dozens. No, hundreds. The guests spill into the churchyard. Father Donnelly turns as pale as his collar. Nora gathers her skirt and steps into the sun, blinking hard until the sight focuses. A river of motorcycles pouring down the lane, chrome, flashing, leather shoulders shining. Soot-throated machines idling like predators that learned patience. One bike climbs the steps and stops. The rider kills the engine and lifts his helmet. Rafe Calder, the boy who pushed her down the street on a wobbling banana seat bike. The teenager who kissed her behind the bleachers and grinned like he might swallow the moon. The man who vanished 8 years ago with no goodbye, no number, nothing. Now his hair is longer, his jaw rougher, and a scar splits one eyebrow like punctuation on a dangerous sentence. Nora, he says, and her name in his mouth knocks the air out of her. The other bikes go silent in a wave until the quiet roars louder than the engines did. 500 faces turn to the woman in white, and the ghost who came back with an army. What are you doing here? Nora manages. Rafe's expression hardens. Stopping you from making a mistake. Nora's mother appears, cheeks blazing. This is a private ceremony. Leave or I call the police. Rafe doesn't even look at her. Adrian's been sleeping with his assistant. 3 months. The words cut clean. He told his buddy Evan he wanted out last week but didn't know how to take the hit. Nora's stomach drops. Lila, the assistant with the too bright smile and a law degree that made Adrian glow when he said her name. No. No. That's not proof. That's a grenade. You don't get to ride back into my life and set it on fire, Nora says, voice shaking. You forfeited that right. I know. It costs him something to admit it. But I wasn't going to let you walk into a lie. Sirens glint at the edge of the lane. Boss! A woman from the pack calls, flicking 2 fingers toward the road. Company! Rafe's eyes hold Nora's one more beat. I'm at the old service bay on County Road 17. If you want answers, about Adrian, about me, you know where to find me. Engines light one by one. Rafe swings onto his bike and leads his tide back the way they came. The noise rolls away, sirens roll in, and what's left is dust, questions, and 300 guests starving for a story. They get their story. Cameras bloom like dandelions. The police take statements in a cramped church office that smells like lemon oil and old paper. Deputy Hart asks if anyone threatened anyone. No. The road is public. Running away at your own wedding isn't illegal. The rules are cold, simple things. Nora's phone becomes a siren of its own. Calls she ignores, messages she can't read. When she finally answers Adrian, his voice is wreckage. He admits it. 2 months ago at the office party, too much whiskey, stupid mistake, means nothing. He begs. She hangs up. By morning, the internet has chewed and swallowed the wedding, and is licking its fingers. The runaway groom trends. The biker convoy replays in slow motion. A stranger writes that Nora deserves better. Another writes that she orchestrated a spectacle. Someone drags up her yearbook photo with Rafe's arm around her waist, and a caption about small towns and bad habits. Her father says the farmhouse, her grandmother's old place 2 hours north, will give her breathing room. He's right about one thing. The farmhouse remembers how to hold a person who can't hold herself. 3 days later, a single engine hums into the amber hush. Rafe parks at the bottom of the steps like a man approaching a scared animal, hands visible, voice low. "You crashed my wedding," Nora says before he can speak, "with 500 motorbikes, and you left me 8 years ago without a word." Upset doesn't begin to cover it. "My brother was dying," he says. "Stage 4. We thought 6 months. It took 3 years. I walked away because I didn't want to pull you into a slow storm I couldn't stop. I thought if I cut it clean, you could be happy." The floor in Nora's chest shifts. Theo. Sweet, lanky Theo, who taught her power chords and ate toast like it was a religion. She swallows. "You still should have said goodbye." "I know." They look at each other like combatants too tired to raise their hands. Rafe softens first. "One ride tomorrow. No speeches, no promises. Just air." She doesn't say yes. She doesn't say no. She says, "I'll think about it," and closes the door on a version of herself that always wanted instructions. In the morning, she texts one word. "Okay." She finds an old leather jacket in a closet that still smells like soap and cedar. She braids her hair. She meets Rafe at the end of the drive and climbs on behind him. The world becomes wind. He avoids the highway and steers them through back roads that fold like ribbon, past fields of sunflowers nodding like 100 small almonds, under trees that turn sunlight green. Nora's arms circle his waist. His heartbeat is steady through leather. For the first time since the note went sour at the altar, breath moves through her without scraping. At a diner tiled in black and white and stuck in 1962, a waitress named Dolores suggests pie in the tone of a woman who can spot a heart in triage. Nora orders cherry because cherry feels like a decision. Rafe tells her about the years after Theo, the shop jobs, the club that knitted him back together when grief tried to dissolve him, the long rides that made sense when nothing else did. "There's a cross-country run in 3 weeks, he says, eyes on the coffee. "Coast to coast. I told myself I'd tie up loose ends before I go. You were not a loose end. You were the point I drew a circle around and tried to ignore. 3 weeks. The words land like a pebble dropped down a very deep well. On the ride back, the wind doesn't quiet her the same way. The question hangs between them. What do you do with a man who breaks your heart to spare it, then breaks your wedding to save it? The town answers with rumors. The internet answers with think pieces. Her mother answers with fear, reporters on the lawn, neighbors clutching their pearls, her father's judgeship up for a vote in 6 weeks. "Stay away from that man," her mother begs, voice paper thin. "Just until this blows over." The line goes dead when Nora says nothing. She tries to buy groceries and ends up a headline in the produce aisle. People are kinder up close than they are online, until they aren't. Outside, Adrian appears, with apology in his face and truth in his mouth. "Don't let them make you the villain in a story I wrecked." When Nora gets back to the farmhouse, Rafe is there with a question in his eyes. Before she can answer it, a black SUV grinds up the drive. Her father climbs out, jaw locked, command in his stance. He points at Rafe and calls him ruin. He points at Nora and calls her naive. The words don't wound so much as bruise. "I need time," Nora says, because she does, and because anything else would be a lie she can't afford. Rafe nods once and rides away without a flinch. Silence fills the house. It echoes. For 3 days she ghosts through rooms with doors she can't close and windows that insist on light. Her best friend Maya arrives with takeout and a sharper kind of mercy. "Real talk," Maya says, ripping open chopsticks. "You've spent years building a life that looked good on paper. Good paper burns fast. What do you want if nobody gets a say?" That night, the answer shows up with stars. Nora knocks on the bay door of the old service shop on County Road 17. Rafe looks up from a carburetor, grease on his knuckles, worry in his shoulders. "One ride," Nora says. "Tonight. It's dark," he warns. Good. They run from it. Or toward it. Sometimes it's the same thing. They ride until towns become freckles of light. On a ridge above the valley, Rafe kills the engine and the silence rings. "I'm scared," Nora says to the sky. "I'm tired of being small. I am furious you left. I am furious you came back. And underneath it all, I am still in love with you, and I hate that, and I don't." Rafe cups her face like a prayer. Leaving you was the biggest wrong turn of my life. I thought I was protecting you. I was really protecting myself from needing you. I love you. That didn't stop for a single day. And in 3 weeks, she asks. In 3 weeks I leave. Unless there's a reason to stay, he says. And then, with a breath that feels like a cliff, or you come with me. The world tilts, but for once it tilts in a direction that makes sense. My parents will never forgive me, Nora says. My job already put me on discreet unpaid leave like I'm a stain they can wash out. My town thinks I'm out of my mind. She takes a breath that tastes like night and new maps. Yes. Dawn finds them on the ridge, quiet and certain. Day finds her parents on the farmhouse porch, with fear disguised as fury. There is a dinner that will impress the people who bless judgeships. There is the demand that she attend and perform solidity. Nora says no. When she says she's leaving in 3 weeks, her father withdraws the safety net with a single sentence. It hurts like a bone setting. Necessary. Savage. True. She cries on the kitchen floor and gets back up. She sells furniture, boxes books, signs a rental for the farmhouse to a couple who fall in love with its creaky steps and wide windows. Maya takes her to buy boots and gloves and a helmet that belongs on her head. The town keeps talking. Nora stops listening. The morning they leave, the square holds 50 bikes instead of 500. The core crew. Leather and chrome and the hum of anticipation. People gather. Curious, disapproving, supportive, anything but indifferent. Mrs. Chow from the library presses a paperback into Nora's hand with an apology softer than any headline. Bring this back with stories. Father Donnelly squeezes her palm and murmurs a blessing for brave hearts. Her parents don't come. It aches. It also unexpectedly steadies her. A life can be built without permission. Rafe asks if she's ready. She asks where they're going. Wherever the road wants, he says. Which is not a plan, and exactly the point. A silver-haired woman rolls up on a matte black bike. Tattoos scroll her arms like history. Kestrel, she says, grin sharp. Road captain, you riding pillion or do you want your own iron one day? Nora looks at the horizon and hears something inside her answer before her mouth does. Teach me, engines buck like thunder trying to outrun itself. The convoy rolls. Past St. Bridget's, past the library's cool windows. Past the houses that held every version of Nora that played nice and smiled on cue. She wraps her arms around Rafe and laughs, head tipped back, hair loud in the wind. The abandoned bride is gone. In her place rides a woman who chose motion over permission. They chase summer west by 2 lanes and diner coffee. Kestrel teaches Nora to clutch and throttle in an empty parking lot behind a shuttered mall. She tips the training bike once, twice. Bruises blooming like ink blots she begins to love. By the next state line she rides her own short hops. By the one after that, she's taking curves with a joy that feels a little like flight. They sleep under stars on the high desert and in motels where the ice machine screams. They fix a stranger's radiator outside a ballpark and get paid in game tickets, and the kind of hot dogs that briefly convince you life is simple. They find a roadside museum devoted to telephones and argue about the best breakup songs until sunrise. On a Tuesday, a message finds Nora in a laundromat. A photograph of her grandmother's farmhouse bathed in gold. Sent by the tenants, captioned "Home is happy. Hope you are too." She is. On a Friday, in a town with 1 stoplight and a diner that serves pie on paper plates, Nora turns and finds her father in the doorway, looking older and softer around the edges. I was passing through, he lies. No, you weren't, she says, and there is no heat in it. The conversation is small, and then it isn't. He apologizes badly and sincerely. He admits fear made him confusingly cruel. He says reputation is a thin quilt in winter. She doesn't apologize for choosing. She says pain is not a debt she owes anyone. They don't resolve everything. They start something better than resolve. They start over. When he leaves, he shakes Rafe's hand without flinching. When he tells Nora to be safe, he says it like a wish, not a law. Summer thins. Mountains rise. On a morning when the world smells like pine and possibility, the pack climbs a spine of road that stitches the sky to the earth. Nora rides her own bike now, small for her size, stubborn for her spirit, and Rafe paces her like a promise. At the summit, the convoy fans out along the overlook. The valley below looks like a map someone spilled light across. Wind tears at their jackets. Kestrel pulls off her helmet and whoops to the clouds. Rafe walks to Nora and bumps his shoulder against hers. You good? He asks. I'm moving, she says. That's better than good. He smiles the kind of smile you keep. Where to next? Nora looks out over a world that kept insisting on straight lines and found her anyway. A woman who learned to turn. Forward, she says, simple and true. Engines spark. Visors drop. 50 riders tilt toward the descent. Nora slides her fingers over the throttle and listens for the note that used to sound like a warning. Now it sounds like a key. She leans into the curve, laughter in her chest, road in her veins, the horizon making space. And down the mountain they go, toward miles of unnamed places, toward people they haven't met yet, toward the kind of life you only get when you stop standing still.